At the end of the day, people are not moved emotionally with just numbers. The data shows you what's working, but these stories show you where you're making a change. And to me, the marriage of two is very, very important to be successful.
Yeah, I almost lost my train of thought. The stories were so good, and especially the Parkinson's one. My mind said, this is how you can make money and be socially good as well, and socially responsible as well. Welcome to CXO Spotlight, powered by Flywheeler, where we dive deep with leaders driving innovation at the highest levels. I'm your host, Chirag, and today we are exploring the evolution of marketing leadership in the age of AI and data. Our guest is Kaveri Camire, CMO of DXC Technology, Fortune 500 global IT services company with over 13.8 billion in annual revenue, serving clients in more than 60 countries. Kaveri is transforming how enterprise companies connect with customers through the perfect blend of technology and authentic human storytelling. Welcome, Kaveri. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Chirag, thank you so much. Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. All right, let's get into it. So, Kaveri, I'm excited to have you here. I've been following your journey from IBM to DXC, and I'm curious what drew you to this role, and why do you think DXC is such a unique inflection point in the technology landscape right now?
Look, I think it's really interesting at the times that we are right now. I think you talked a little bit about the world of AI and how that's changing everything. For
Mhm.
me, I spent 20 years at IBM and we went through multiple transformations, and B2B and the tech space has been really interesting for me. I've always been in the tech world for the last 26 years. And I think what's truly unique about technology in my mind is just the impact it has on people like you and I on a daily basis.
Yeah.
If I want to buy something, I'm using technology. If I'm flying somewhere, I'm using technology. So it's no longer just the airline or, a restaurant. Everything has got a blend of technology and innovation in it. So one thing I knew for a fact is that my next chapter, after having spent 20 years with an iconic company, I knew I wanted to go for another iconic company that is deep in innovation. And as I kind of stumbled upon this opportunity with DXC, what I started to learn as I started to unravel what DXC is all about, as you said, 130,000 people across the globe at DXC. We operate in 70 countries. And if you look at American Airlines, if you look at Mercedes, BMW, Allianz, and I can go on, United Airlines, some of these largest clients that we have today in the world where we're making a change. And to me, that is so exciting that these relationships are not just from yesterday. What's really interesting about DXC is we've got this really rich heritage. And actually, some of the clients that I mentioned to you, we've been working with them for multiple decades. So we have been with them in the past, we are with them today, and we are really marching on the journey of the future with them as well. So if you're in an airline or you're somewhere in the healthcare space, chances are you'll find us somewhere there. And to me, that is super exciting. And that's a story I want to tell the world. That's the story I want people to hear about, because we're making a difference in the world. And for me, difference is in the doing. And that's what our people are all about. So just looking at all of this, I'm like, this is the best place to be at as my next chapter. So here I am at DXC.
Awesome. Well, glad to see you happy. And this is fascinating. I mean, you mentioned the transformation work you have been leading. I've been
Yeah.
noticing how the chief marketing officer role has completely evolved over the last few years. When you were at IBM and now at DXC, how have you personally experienced the shift from being just a brand steward to becoming a growth architect for the brand?
Yeah, I think that is such an important point, and you're absolutely spot on. The role of marketer is not just, having a brand resonance. I think what's really important, and that's what I tell my entire team, right? One, you've got to really understand the business depth. If you are not aligned with what is that unique or the X factor of your organization, what are the good and the bad and the ugly, you've really got to go deep in the business to then really elevate what is your differentiation in the market. And as a marketer, you've got to really be very close to that. So for
Yeah.
me, number one, it's no longer just about let me go spend X number of dollars and build, brand resonance. That's important and that's still our bread and butter. But really understanding the business and the depth of the business, to me, is number one criteria to be a solid marketer. Second, having those relationships at a business level, which kind of anchors to what I was just talking about, right?
Yeah.
you got to understand the challenges of the business. You got to understand the opportunities of the business. And every single day, you have to be fully aligned with all of the leadership that is driving change for the company, that is trying to move the companies forward. And not just that, in the last, I think I've joined DXC 10, 11 months ago, I've met probably about 40 to 45 customers and our partners. And that was one of the biggest things that was very important for me, to kind of take a step back and listen and learn. So having the approach of understanding your business, having the notion of understanding your customers and your partners. What are you doing for them today? What are you not doing for them? And where can you go with them? That's very important. And then the last thing, which, I have to say, the world of AI, I mean, we've all heard it. We were all talking about it. It is going to forever change marketing. And if you are not one of those super learners who is trying to kind of really experiment with it, experience it, learn from it, you're going to be left behind. But with that, I think that human loop is not going to go away anywhere, because at the end of the day, you've got to like align with people's emotion. You've got to align with the human element. And that AI piece is so critical, because our task, it's not just efficiency. AI is going to help us become even more effective marketers with personalization, having access to data. So, I mean, looking at all of this, the role of a marketer, it's an exciting time, because you're going to change the game. You're no longer just saying, I'm going to, spend a sum of money, do some events, do some brand work. It's about really understanding the business, understanding your clients. And then really we're in that golden era of disruption, where we're changing how we work on a daily basis with the use of technology. It's like a fun experience moving forward.
Super fun. And actually, this particular part of the conversation reminded me of something that I read about you did and this AI kind of inflection point. So I was reading about your client insight exchange initiative, and it got me thinking, so many chief marketing officers I talk to are chasing the latest AI tools,
Yeah.
but struggling to show the real business impact, sort of, right? So, what have been your experience with this? Is there something counterintuitive that you have discovered about driving actual ROI that might be missing?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that is such an important point. So, was it, I think last month, we got a really small sector, but a really large, I mean, they're one of some of our biggest clients. We brought them together in a closed room for a 2 day session. And the 2 day session was really around what it's called client insight exchange. We exchange insights, we talked to each other, we talked about our children, we talked about our families, but we also talked about the complexities of banking, we have a huge customer that is a bakery, actually. I was sitting next to one of our airline customers. And I think what's really important right now, very similar to what I just said in my prior statements, knowing the customer value is so important, because I think our customers right now themselves are going through this period of the unknown. What can AI do for me? What can it not do for me? Am I ready to implement AI in my banking environment or my insurance environment? And I think this really unfolds this amazing opportunity for every tech provider to really bring that guidance to our customers, to show them the art of what's possible. And even if it's in small pockets, right? So for me, I think at the end of the day, just understanding our customers' needs, understanding actually even the things that our customers are not able to grapple with, like, well, is this going to help me? Considering DXC has depth of engineering, we have security experts, we have people, designers, we can really articulate this strategy that can then go and be implemented for our customers, giving them the art of what's possible. So that's something that we did a lot of, like literally in a workshop session last month with the 13 customers that we have. And this is going to even just going to get broader and broader, because I think what we need to nail down is, what are the problems we're trying to solve? Because oftentimes as marketers, we are so focused on what we want to sell as a solution that we
Yeah.
fail to look at it as, what is the problem that I'm trying to solve for the customer? And once you're able to pivot your conversation to the problem solving narrative, to like, let me sell you XYZ, is going to have direct ROI impact for sure. And it has to be clean in the data that you uncover. Because I mean, you can have many concepts and many visions of like what you want for the customer. But I think once you're able to show the customer the real value that you're driving, right off the bat, it may start small, but very soon it can expand into a bigger opportunity.
Yeah, this reminded me of a conversation I recently had with a enterprise CIO, and it's like a validation of what you're saying. Is that, and Doug was on the show just I think 2 3 weeks back, and I put him on spot. The question was not in the agenda, and I asked him that, Doug, how do you choose a IT service provider? Like,
Oh, good. I want to know.
there's so much noise coming at you. Everybody has the right intent, and his answer I was expecting to be very loaded and have different nuances to it. And it was such a simple one. And it goes back to what you said. He said that, look, we are an ICE distribution company, right? You want to sell me digital transformation, ERP? Which of the partners is willing to invest time in bringing me in a room and learning my process?
There you go.
If there is a partner willing to do that, I'm willing to listen. And
Got to make
that's,
time.
we overcomplicate it. And it's amazing your client insight exchange is doing that. Super.
It's so
So
funny. I will
yeah,
add one thing to that. And it's again, it ties so well with what you were just talking about, because at the end of the day, after the 2 day session, because it was open, it was in a closed door session, we could discuss, all the problems and opportunities in a very untethered way.
yeah,
It was very interesting that by the end of it all, some of the customers were like, how can we help you? How can we partner with you? And to me, that was the biggest validation, that when you lead a conversation with a client by listening
yeah.
and problem solving for what they're grappling with, I think they will open the door to you.
Yeah. 100%, because 18 years in this industry, and I've realized any tech company can deliver a solution, but unless those tribal and cultural nuances come out, it will not be a business success. So
Completely.
what you provided them was a safe area where they could even share their culture and then bring that out.
And now we're
Super.
actually trying to deploy it in different markets. But I think what also was good was it was very small, intimate groups, because I
Yeah.
think also locality matters a lot. We are, like I said, we're a global company. We're in 60, 70 countries. So now
Yep.
we're kind of trying to really expand this work to different markets with local customers, because they have local nuances. What I love about DXC is we have that global scale, but then we are also able to bring that local excellence where we know your cultural challenges, your cultural nuances, and how do we kind of unpack that. So hopefully that'll go well, but I'm excited about the local execution now.
Super. All right, let's double click on something you just mentioned about connecting with customers, right? In your recent Forbes interview, you talked about this being like a golden era of disruptive technology, and yet you emphasized human connection. I find that so interesting because in a world where every tech company claims to be customer centric, how have you actually managed to cut through the noise with DXC's clients?
Look, I'll give you a very simple example that just happened between you and I 20 minutes ago, right? You and I have exchanged emails, and that was a digital connection. And you introduced yourself to me, and I introduced myself to you, and it was all digital. We got on the phone, you and I had a human connection where we started actually talking to each other, and we found out we are from the same country, we're from the same locality. And that connection that I just built with you 20 minutes prior to this session will forever be in my memory as what I know of you. So to me, I think we are absolutely in the golden era of tech innovation. I mean, hands down. AI is not just going to change, it's starting to evolve everything. The way we operate, especially from the marketing world, how we create content, how we do our writing. I mean, and whoever is not experimenting with AI, I will say it clearly is going to be left behind. But the technology also has many cycles to it, right? Couple of years ago, there was this whole notion of Y2K. Then came business intelligence. Then came Internet of Things. Then came AI. Tomorrow will be quantum. There will always be cycles of tech disruption, which is why I love tech so much, because it's so fluid and it has direct impact on people. But what remains the same and what remains together is the human connection. Whether it's the cycle of AI or tomorrow the cycle of quantum, unless you're able to build that human validation to The data, AI is only as good as its data, right? It's only as good as what you feed it is it going to kind of really blurt out. Now, don't get me wrong. I use Claude every day. I use Chat GPT every day. My husband was just showing me he started coding on Claude yesterday and he actually built a code. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it's exciting. But at the same time, I think not losing reality and sight of the human element and the emotion element of what a marketer needs to go market out there, and finding the alignment between the two pillars is really, really critical. Because even though AI is going far and beyond today, it is still in one of those stages where we are learning as we're growing with it, right? Especially when you're dealing with governments and patient care and banks. There is such tremendous opportunity that is changing the game for these verticals. But I think having the connectivity with human intelligence is not going to change, because you need to bring that human intelligence and judgment to just have that human loop to respond to, is it validated authentically, is it secure? So that's really important. But I tell you, every time I talk about it, and I keep telling my team about this concept of super learners, right? We all have got to be super learners, because what today looks like in AI is not going to be what tomorrow looks like in AI. So it's an exciting time.
Absolutely, yeah. And a month in our lifetime is day in AI. You get so many models released in 3 days, right?
I truly believe that when AI is fully implemented, there are 8 billion people in this world, approximately. When AI is fully implemented, which is not going to be far away, it's going to feel like a throughput of 80 billion people. Literally, at the expanse of effectiveness and efficiency that will come into play is ginormous. It's going to be ginormous. And that's where you have to say, where does the human intelligence or the human value come into the broader play? Because now you're going to be able to do tasks that were done by, hundreds and thousands of people at a much faster, more effective way. So human can spend their time on more strategic, higher value plays.
Super, super. Awesome. I love what you said about authentic storytelling. It reminds me of something I've been noticing lately, that this is a paradox where companies are collecting more customer data than ever, right? And yet many seem to be losing that human element. In your work at DXC, how are you navigating this tension between data-driven decisions and maintaining genuine human connection at the same time?
Your data is only as good as you feed the information in it. So you can spit out really false data, or you can spit out really authentic data that can inform your iterative actions for improvement. So right off the bat, I say if an organization is not a data driven organization, then it's almost like you are walking on a path and you really are not clear on your destination. To me, data is really the foundation of everything that you start to do, because it gives you elements of reality. Because you might think you just launched an incredible campaign, but then if the data shows you something different, you can pivot. It helps you in iterative fashion. Data informs you of your actions and the results of that. So to me, data is kind of really the linchpin of how you operate in a business environment, to really start to show whether we're progressing. And if we're not progressing, how do we pivot to start the progress? But I think at the end of the day, people are not moved emotionally with just numbers. Data is to inform us of performance, which is important. To me, what people are moved by is, for example, we work on Parkinson's disease with one of the hospitals. We've literally created a mobile app for Parkinson's patients where they can look at the data. If you look at this mobile app, they can do this and they can see their data on what their vital stats are. We're making it easier for Parkinson's patients so they can literally get access to the information through a mobile app. To me, that's a story of change. I didn't talk about any numbers in this story, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
those are the things that I think move me, where I feel like authentic storytelling is so important. I'll give you another example. So we're working with this insurance company called Equitable Holdings. They've been a part of our insurance business. So we have our insurance business that is actually, they manage 1,000 customers today in the software space. And we run, I think, over a billion insurance policies. It's pretty ginormous. So we've been working with Equitable Holdings for a long time. And because of the bench and the depth of the trusted relationship they have with us, they were also one of those, we trust you, but we don't know what to do with that AI. Can you help us build a chatbot? XC was able to build a chatbot for them in under 30 days. And it started out as a 700 user project. It's now expanded to 11,000 users, where now the human agents can actually process thousands of claims and records in minutes. To me,
Unbelievable. Yeah.
that is like a story of, okay, we are making change in our customer's life, in our customers. That is authentic storytelling to me, right? And then even with United Airlines, I think I'm sure you've flown United sometime or the other as a passenger, right? We're helping them above the wing and below the wing. So by that, what I mean is imagine from the moment as a passenger, you check into your flight, you put your baggage, the flight crew is checking, is the flight on time, is the airplane in good capacity, maintenance capacity. DXC is responsible for pretty much the entire life cycle of a passenger's journey across the United airline for the whatever time frame that you're there. But we are, like I was saying in the beginning of the conversation, right? If you've flown an airplane, chances are we're behind the scene. So we manage the critical data, but we also manage the experience, the human element of the customer. So I mean, I could go on with these amazing stories, right? And I think that is the power. So you have to have that ambidextrous approach to how you market today, because the data shows you what's working, but these stories show you where you're making a change. And to me, the marriage of two is very, very important to be successful.
Yeah, I almost lost my train of thought. The stories were so good, and especially the Parkinson's one. My mind said, this is how you can make money and be socially good as well and socially responsible as well. So, and also, I think there's a deeper pattern coming out in what you're saying that I'm observing here is that there used to be employee advocacy in the past,
Yeah,
right? And it is still there, but it never worked to the limit that we wanted it to work, where the employees like yourself will be sharing the stories.
yeah.
Because you see the impact of it. I almost lost my train of thought of what I'm going to ask next,
That's
just
great.
because the story was so good. So, and I'm seeing this change in the market that, let's say if a company does great work for a customer, right? And it becomes a case study and it is printed as a case study, then it's like a commitment document for a customer that I want to
It
read
is
it. But if a human being is saying that thing externally, and that is the thing that B2C does very well, the influencer marketing.
very true.
Now I'm seeing the B2B and tech companies make their own top 10 CEO, CTO, and the client facing executives as those human brand ambassadors and
Completely.
do that authentic storytelling just like the way you did, because that is what will pull the customer in and get their attention. And attention is the most expensive thing, right?
I couldn't agree more. And I will say that the job of like a B2B organization sometimes becomes much harder, because when you're trying to sell an Apple phone, you have something to show for. But when you're trying to really talk about the power of technology that sits behind, that is not visually, like you can't see it, you almost have to articulate the story, to your point, in a compelling way where you're trying to show change, the difference that you're making. At DXC, we talk about, because we are consultants, we're engineers, we're designers, we're security experts. We say at the end of the day, people can talk, but the difference is in the doing. When you actually get in the work and do it. And that's what we're all about. We're about making a change for our customers, whether it's citizen service, healthcare, whatever that might be. And I think, to me, you asked me why DXC. Honestly, you can probably hear it in my voice. That's what excites me.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I'm back. I was flown in that passion. Now I'm back. So let's get into the most interesting segment. We have had such a rich conversation, but I want to shift gears a bit for some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
These
Can
are
I
meant to
ask
be quick.
some questions of you as well?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So you have been in both camps throughout your career. So I'm curious, brand building or demand generation, is there a clear winner in today's environment?
Look, for me, I think they go both hand in hand. I think if you don't have a brand that people can align themselves to, you're not going to be able to drive demand. And if you're not able to drive demand, your business is not going to exist. It's really those two necessary evils or angels, whatever you might call it. I think you need to have both juxtaposed, but I think brand is so important because that's what makes people make a buying decision. That's how people say, I'm going to purchase something, and then the demand follows. But demand is so incredible in our business world where ROI is the name of the game. You got to drive demand.
Absolutely. All right. So in your 2 decades, a leadership experience, what's the one habit that gave you the biggest lift personally? Something that might surprise people.
It's probably not surprising. It's kind of grueling, and it's about discipline. I try to be very focused and disciplined in everything that I do. For example, I wake up every single morning and I spend an hour for myself. You can see my Peloton right there. So I'm a runner and I love doing it every morning. And I also do strength training. So for me, having that discipline for doing something that's just for you and no one else is very important. And finding time for that. And sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 20 minutes. But I think finding those 20 minutes for yourself or that hour for yourself is very important. So for me, having the discipline to like nobody comes between that time for me, that's a
Me
critical one.
time.
Me
Brilliant.
time.
Awesome. Yeah, super. I love asking this one, especially to chief marketing officers. Okay. What's the most overrated marketing strategy that you see enterprise tech companies pouring money into right now?
I think every strategy without an end goal, and that I mean like data driven end goal, is overrated. You've got to have, whether it's a marketing campaign, whether it's a brand campaign, lead gen campaign, if you are not able to get to what is my end game and the destination that I'm getting to from a results perspective, and oh, by the way, that better be aligned with your sales leader and your business leaders. To me, marketing for marketing's sake is just marketing. But when you're doing marketing to help with the business, to me, that's a strategic, intentional investment in the work that you're trying to drive for the company.
Yeah, very cool. Now, this was strategy. Now let's talk about you've seen so many best practices come and go. Is there one in B2B marketing that you completely disagree with? Something everyone does that you think is just wrong?
I can't say that because it's hard to kind of define something as incorrect or correct. I think I'm a real believer, and I talked about that a little bit. Don't sell solutions for the sake of selling solutions. I think when you lead that way, chances are you're going to lose. Sell solutions to solve a problem. And I think when you look at problem solving that is very specific to where you're trying to sell, it's going to work. And if you don't do it that way, it's not going to work no matter what. And listen, I think those two things are very, very important as you kind of lay out your strategy. Whether you're a CEO of a company or a CMO or a CIO, you got to really tackle something that you're trying to tackle with a problem-solving lens versus
Mm.
just let me just do some data-driven actions. It's got to have an end game to it.
Absolutely. All right. Last one, and this is timely given all the AI hype. What's one thing about AI in marketing that you think executives are fundamentally misunderstanding today?
I think it's not about misunderstanding. It's like the maturity of really applying AI to the
Absolutely.
day to day. And what I mean by applying AI to the day to day is, I mean, I literally tell my team, put it through ChatGPT. Take a look at like what it spits out for you. Have you looked at Claude? Like starting to experiment is going to be really important because I think this technology is evolving. Like to your point, what you just said earlier, right? Things that would took a long time are going to be done under a minute. You've got to stay on top of it. And I think AI is going to change the game for a lot of, in fact, for every single profession. But I think at the end of the day, you also have to make sure that you stay true to sort of your basic elements of integrity, security, authenticity. Those are like the principles that never go away. But AI as a tool is going to become something that is going to actually let you disrupt your own game and take it to the next level. So
Totally.
I encourage every single member of my team, myself, to actually carve out time to experiment, to learn, to grow with it. And also, I mean, that's the really amazing thing about having a community and cohort. So I have a community of CMOs and CCOs who I talk to on a regular
Mhm.
basis to just say, hey, what are you hearing? What are you learning? What are the strategies you're deploying? So I think it's going to be a lot of learning along the way and then really implementing some of the things that start to show, start small and then drive big impact over time is how it's going to shape up in my mind.
Yeah, super. Well, that's all I had, but thank you, Kaveri, for these
Of course.
powerful insights into the future of marketing leadership where sort of technology and human connection converge. So your journey from IBM to DXCs offers such a invaluable insights through this podcast. So thank you for being on the show.
And thank you for having me. I so appreciate you taking the time and just getting to know me and DXC and the marketing journey. It's an exciting time for all of us right now. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For our listeners who want to learn more, you can follow Kaveri's journey, and all the links are in the show notes. Stay tuned for more conversations with leaders reshaping technology and business on CXO Spotlight, powered by Flywheeler.
To catch more such interesting conversations, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Music.